Hello there guys, it's Joey. So this is a new spell set for the store that was a request. This is the Priestess of the Wild Rose set. So the Priestess of the Wild Rose was actually the name requested, and the items in shop were requested, and pink was requested, and then I was let loose, so as it is. And I really dig the name. I really dig the name. Obviously, I work with Priestesses of the Trees frequently, which is my particular brand. So this wasn't far-reaching for me whatsoever, because this is basically just looking for the connection between the priestess and the deva. The deva being the energy, the spirit of the plant. So that's quite frequently what I do with regards to the Ogham of the Trees. So if you go on the Facebook page or the store, you'll see, you know, priestess of each Ogham. The Willow Priestess is the one currently obviously at the fore, and with the Wheel of the Year in the Celtic tree Wheel of the Year being what it is. So Priestess of the Wild Rose was a natural step for me, and I really dig it. I really dig the energy as well. I think it's lovely. So I focused on meditating and connecting with the energy of Rose and Wild Rose in particular, like what that energy said to me, what that priestess said to me, how she presented herself, and so on. So Rose in the wild as she is meant to be. The priestess wild and passionate as she is meant to be. Sexuality as worship of divinity, love in all its passionate throes. The body is temple, sensuality and sexuality as natural parts of worshipping. It brings into mind the idea that you see presented in modern witch articles and priestess articles quite a lot recently, of the idea of I hesitate because it's a swear word, but it's the idea of the sacred whore, and the idea of connecting sexuality to something higher and taking back one's sexuality and spirituality. The celebration of life force and the abandonment of shame is basically the key of that sacred connection there. And Rose embodies all of this, but it goes beyond that. It has elements of what it means to love, and roses have taken on love energies in modern society and have become rather civilized in the way that it's done. Language of the flowers and giving of flowers as gifts, and the different colours having different symbolisms within what it means to receive a particular colour of rose. I've actually got a video all about it, so if you're interested in the varying meanings behind the different colours of roses, I do have that available on the channel. I'll try and remember to link it actually. And that is a little bit too civilised for what we wanted, because to do a rose set and it was like, oh, it's love and it brings love into your life, it's a little bit too simplified, and that's not what we want. We want wild rose, we want the deva, we want it what it means to be deep down and dirty with the roots of the rose. And I really enjoy the idea of the rose as a opener to the higher spiritual realms. If anyone's read the Gramassi book, it's one of my favourites, I love it. And that's very much about thorn and bloom in conjunction, the sacrifices it takes to become who we're meant to be, and the beauty and the blossom at the end of it. Spirituality in its truths, in its life force energies. It's a difficult path. It is looking to open those doors to being who we're truly meant to be, and in terms of love, who we're truly meant to be with, and loving ourselves for who we are, and pricking our fingers, you know, spilling our blood, sacrificing the hard work that it takes to become the blossom of the rose. And definitely the deva of the wild rose is wild and free with abandon, and very maidenesque, beautiful, and bringing beauty to all things around, but also seeing beauty in everything. So It's doing away with labels of ugliness, and wild rose energy really does sort of refuse to see anything as being labelled as ugly. It's like, take another look, change your perception, see that things are beautiful as they are and as they are meant to be. And it really laughs in the face of social convention, basically. It just laughs in the idea of who are we to label this as ugly, or who are we to label and confine. It's like, reclaim that wild rose part of yourself, be free and enjoy life. Very, very much so. Very, very passionate, and giving passion to all causes, no matter what the focus. So I'm going to move this out of the way first, because this blimmin' spell orbs and their reflectability, and we will talk about the items individually. So we'll start with the pillar. These items are actually requested, as the specific items were requested. So I hope you can see. Yep. This is highly scented, which you're not going to be able to tell on camera, obviously. No smell-o-vision, and it smells gorgeous. I've been smelling it all the way upstairs as I brought it upstairs to video. And it's coloured in a very specific way, and it's different to how I would normally colour candles, and it's basically, the colour has been diffused as the scent has been diffused all the way through. So it's a different process, which means that the colour in the candle unfolded the very much the same way that a rose would unfold its bloom. And so the technical process reflects the spiritual process, and it felt very important. There is an energy of that in rose energy as well, that the physical technical processes of life should reflect what's in your heart, what's in your soul, what's in your spirituality. It's very much, you know, walk your talk style energies. So it's very bright in here. I'm hoping it won't be too bright on. I hope you can see here the sheen. The sheen is very specific. The sheen is done on purpose and took some doing, I'll tell you. But the sheen is meant to reflect the sheen on the petal of a rose. I wanted you to look into the heart of a rose, basically. And it took some doing. It did. But I'm really, really happy with the result. So there you go. That's the pillar. Well, right, we're going to lightly shake the oil because, okay, let's do this on here, right, and then so you can see the movement, because those bits move very quickly. It's lovely. It's beautiful, I like it. And you have a rose charm here, of course. So there is that wildness energy in here. The beauty energy is in here. It's lovely. I really wanted to make sure that we ramped it up a little bit, that we didn't err on the side of the whimsy, because the whimsy of the rose is easy to do. It's easy to embrace, it's easy to see it and feel it, but when you're looking at wild rose, you have to dig a little deeper. It has to be a bit grittier, you know, it has to be sexy as well as pretty, if that makes sense. So I definitely needed that. So we'll do the spell orb, because I really want to have a little bit of a chat about the smudge. Right. Okay. So hopefully you can see the ribbon is dusty pink, very rose-esque, very fitting with the colour theme. I like having pink in wild rose. Pink was obviously requested. I think I would have done it anyway. But pink tends to get categorised as this pretty colour. It's very pretty, it's very light, it's very soft. But really, it's not. Really, pink is sexy as hell. I mean, you pair pink, God, that's a tongue twister. You pair pink with black and it becomes instantly the most sexual colour combination to my mind. And it can be very, very naughty. It can be so multifaceted that it really means, you know, in terms of colour therapy, take a good look. Look beyond what you think you know, because pink these days is ascribed to little girls, but that got switched in the Victorian era, I believe, because it used to be pink was for boys. So it's worth examining these things and looking a little deeper. Talking a little deeper, let's try and see the inside of the spell orb. It's hands reflecting. Right, so it's very reflective, obviously, and it's very, very bright today, which is nice. We have some sunshine. Not too warm, please. It's only May. We keep getting really, really hot weather in May, and then we get a really weird summer. Anyway, there you go. Very many different facets of the rose is the idea with the spell orb. It's very pretty. Very aesthetically pleasing. Right, last but not least is the smooch. Le smooch. Right, there is a little rosebud in the very, very centre. This is the only rose petal in the smudge, which is what we need to talk about. Rose energy is incorporated throughout within terms of the essential absolute oil and things of that nature, but there are no rose petals, and that's very purposeful. When something is meant to smell nice, it's not a good idea to overload it with rose petals, because rose petals, when burning, do not smell very good. And it's kind of something that you learn along the way of crafting. It's a very important sort of lesson to, particularly with smudges, to be led by your nose and test how things smell and burn, and the interaction of elements that create an energy as well as a scent. So it's very, very important to not have this smelling like burning rose petal, I guess, because it doesn't smell nice. So there is one little rosebud right in the centre, and he's really there for aesthetic value. You can take him right out, whoop, and there's the rest of your smudge. But given that it's Priestess of the Wild Rose, I felt that, you know, aesthetically it needed just to be popped in there. And it's a rosebud, obviously, for ease, so you can just take it out, whereas if it had been like a rose petal, it might have got lost in the mix, and we don't want that. So, smudges are about creating a temple. This is how I see smudges, this is how my smudges are, and how I approach that. So, we're creating a temple of the wild rose. Yes, indeedy. We're creating that sacred lady. I don't want to say it again. I suppose it's funny how we attach such negative connotations towards actually, and we should really get over it, like take the power away from those who would use words such as whore as a derogatory term. Maybe we should really look at that. Maybe that is one of the underlying themes, actually, like this set has brought to bear. Like, take a look at how you talk to yourself, take a look at how you talk to others, and in terms of, you know, sexual energies, and really reevaluate what it means to be sexual, and that word, and either reclaim it or stop calling it others. Maybe it's kind of very sisterhoody. It's kind of, you know, it has that energy of the wild rose. It's kind of brings together of a sisterhood, like support one another and take care of one another rather than being derogatory. Anyway, the smudges create a temple, and this is creating the temple of the wild rose. We have vines climbing up the walls. We have the deva in all her bright pink glory. I envision the deva in pink, with long pink flowing robes, very sheer. You can see all the skin through, but as she moves, but when she doesn't move, it's not quite as sheer, so it has that kind of illusion and alluding to sexuality, that mystery, that mystique, that naughty edge. and it creates that place of earth and sexuality, and earth can be very sexual, and it just creates such a beautiful image, this rose, this temple where rose petals are just scattered everywhere, and the deva is there. I imagine her very much like there's like a white marble bench, and she's sat on it, perched on it with her legs daintily crossed at the ankles, and she's got her hands crossed and in her lap, and she's just looking at you with her, you know, shoulder brought forward, and very sensual, and just looking at you and daring you to be who you're meant to be in terms of sexuality. And so the energies of the particular smudge had to reflect that deva, had to take you there in your mind's eye to that temple. And I went through was it 3 or 4? I think it was 3 variations of this smudge before I was happy with it. At no point did we have rose petals in, like I mentioned, but I had different variations of the elements backing up this energy because they had to work in synchronicity. They had to create that vibration, that energy weave, that energy web that I talk about frequently, that the different energies within the smudge had to come together on an energetic, harmonious level. They had to sing the song of the Temple of the Rose all together and interlock and intertwine and interweave to create the particular smudge. So I hope you like it, and many blessings.